To those of you who happen to have seen stuff I've done before will know that I've built or attempted to build some tools which might be useful for spatialization and for sound generation or sound manipulation. One of which is Clatter. Clatter hasn't made it onto here yet, but Orbit, which is a spatialization tool, very definitely has. And I think I've made it a bit more elegant and a bit more flexible than it was before. So in N-channel spat, oh yeah, you've got a matrix object, very briefly. You can say, I want 5 inputs and 15 outputs, and it will make them for you. So so again, that could just be a very quick matrix building object, if people think that might be handy. Orbit is Orbit. There we go. So again, you can specify number of input channels, number of output channels. Let's say we have I don't know, 8 input channels, and we wanted to go to 12 output channels, for whatever reason. I can't think of one right now, but there it is. It's made that. Now I'm using the nodes object, which in fact I'm using, well, at the moment it looks like 2 superimposed nodes object. In fact there are 3 as part of this, two of which represent channels and one of which represents speakers. So how does that work? Well, you can see that the black represents channels and the white represent speakers or outputs positions, and you can these have some quick keys. By the way, what I haven't said yet, rather foolishly, is the fact that you can bring up help for each of these individual modules by pressing Command, Alt and Control. So all the 3 keys on the left hand side of the bottom of your keyboard, unless of course you have a MacBook Pro, for example, in which case you will also have a function key there. Or if you have a PC, then I think you'll have to use, I'm not sure what you use in to replace Command, but whatever it is that you use it. So press them all together and it will come up with instructions for everything, so that might be helpful. And you can see at the bottom of that one, module shortcuts, S to edit speakers positions, C to edit channel positions. So if I press S, then it comes up with a means of changing those. Obviously the channels disappear and we can click on any of these and move them. At the top you will also see there are some default configurations which we can save as circle, which is a you can see it's it's stereo pairs basically, double hexagon 2. Not quite sure how that becomes a double hexagon, but anyway, or default, which puts them in the circle that you had before. So I'll go to my circle, which I might refer to as the beast circle. And then you can do the same thing with channels, either by clicking on this or by pressing C. And that gives you, well, you can probably just about see underneath the sort of pinkish versions of the channels, which are the basic channel positions. If I move number 1, you'll see that there's kind of a light version which kind of moves around in relation to that. That's actually where your channel is. The pink ones are the sort of the default positions, if you like. But if you look at the top where we've got amplitude, if I change amplitude, you will see those others kind of move in and out. So again, here I've got a series of presets, so I can maybe go from a circle 8 to a circle 12, and we turn off edit and we go back to that. And then the whole configuration can be moved by means of the crosshairs in the middle, so we can move the whole lot around. And what else? Oh yes, so orientation of that. So this is where the old orbit came in. If I do that, then I can rotate the whole thing around that central crosshairs. I can also change the amplitude in relation to the center, and I can also use the overlizer, which will kind of scrunch it either vertically or horizontally. And again, we've got these little circles which will take us back to default positions. So that's all very well, but what happens if I want to change any of those things without having to click on them within the clipping itself? Well, you can communicate with the clipping, as I suggested earlier. The way to do that is to use this name again and a send object. So if we make send to orbit 0, and then we can prepend the name of the parameter that we want to change, and to find out what that parameter name is, you just hover over the parameter and it pops up. It's contained within curly brackets, which you can ignore, and in this case it's also got range 0 to 1. Basically it's overlizer in this case, it's amplitude in that case, it's orientation in that case. So you prepend whatever you're sending to that object with the name of the parameter. So let's put in amplitude. Connect that up, and then whatever I connect to that should change the parameter that I want it to, which indeed it does. So that seems to work, and that also applies to the nodes objects. So any of those nodes objects, if I click on S, then that becomes speaker position. So I can change the speaker positions dynamically from outside that clipping if I want to. Similarly, the overall channel configurations, in addition to making a new comment box, which I didn't want to do. But you get the idea. So if you know the nodes object, which is a very useful object, then you can change the channel positions dynamically and so on. So that again could be useful. Another thing, of course, that Orbit can do, which I think I probably mentioned in previous tutorials when I've been talking about Orbit, is not only to take smaller channel configurations and apply them to bigger ones, and obviously move them around in space in relation to bigger ones like that, but it will also allow you to quick collapse things. So let's make another Orbit object, and you will notice when I do so, because I've strategically left that one open, that if I go from 8 to 2, then here are our orbit unique identifier is orbit number 1, and so it will go up, obviously, with the more objects that you make. So in this case, because I use it's a bit difficult. Yeah, that's right. Because I use the beast system, that's just the outputs, but the channels I will use circle 8 like that, and come out of there. Oops, there we go. I can, for example, increase the amplitude, and that's where the overlizer is quite useful, because by doing that it means that my channels are much more evenly distributed in relation to the stereo pair that I've got set up there. So you'll get a mix of those 8 channels down to 2. Clunky, but quite useful if you need to do it in a hurry.